Hello and welcome to the Harry Man Show, number 55. We have our first returning guest, Jeremy Schulz. He was actually on episode 46, and we got to touch base with his lesson studio, Beats from the Core, what inspired it, and we barely got to touch base on his journey across America on foot, which I totally wanted to hear his story, and I felt like we were cut a little short. So as a returning guest, we have Jeremy. How you doing?
Dude. Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. First returning guest, man. I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, I just feel like we could probably have you on multiple times just to kind of hear the story, and I feel like we just barely touched base on it. But I also want to emphasize on what we talked about last time. You do some incredible things with your students. You're a great teacher, and your studio's grown and grown as I see it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, thanks, man. I started doing the online teaching thing, well before COVID, 5 or 6 years ago. And then, that has grown. And then I started doing the teacher training program where I was teaching other musicians how to teach and how to build a business. And the good news is just a couple weeks ago, I just got approved for my California state, the 501c3 for my nonprofit to be able to raise money for scholarships for people who can't afford drum lessons. I can pay for their music lessons to be paid for. It's starting out just drums, but I'm gonna hopefully grow it to where it can be drums, guitar, bass, and kids all over the U.S. who can't afford lessons will be able to get them through my scholarship. That's my thing.
That's pretty badass, man. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. That's been a huge dream of mine. I actually thought that up during my walk, man, and so I'm making it happen.
All right, so I guess we're just gonna start from the ground zero with it. When did the idea of just taking that journey cross your mind?
Oh man. I would say, I started actualizing when I was living in New York City. I was a working drummer out of Brooklyn. Everything was going great. But prior to that, maybe a year before that, I was actually living in Bangkok, Thailand.
Really?
And when I was there in Bangkok, man, the most incredible thing happened. There was this guy named, they call him Toon Body Slam. Okay. Seriously. Yeah. Toon Body Slam.
All right.
And he was the lead singer of a heavy metal band. The band was called, Body Slam.
Sounds like a badass.
And he's just a dude, had band practice with his guys and stuff, and he enjoyed running, and he decided that he was going to run from the very bottom of Thailand all the way to the top, and he was going to raise money. He was just going to get cash and raise money and bring it to the children's hospital for no reason other than he just wanted to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he ended up raising 500 million baht.
Oh,
okay, wow. Right? The conversion is different. That's probably like a couple mil here, right, or whatever.
That's a lot of
yeah, and so I would see him on the news, and he would run, and people would come out and meet him, and he was just like this dude. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, I just I didn't really think about it. So that's when I was like, oh my God, that would be epic, man. I would totally love to do it. And then when I got to New York, I liked walking everywhere. New York is it's crazy because it's this huge crowded place, and it's literally the most lonely place I've ever been to.
Really?
Ever. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's lonely. Everybody there is lonely. It's a trip. So,
well, let me back you up. Do you think it's lonely because technology or just everyone's busy?
I feel like definitely probably a bit of both, but I say more so on everybody is busy. Everybody is ready to go. Everybody is so hustle and bustle and hustle. It's like you know, it's very easy to feel invisible there.
Yeah.
So I would just walk and walk and walk, and I would think about that tune guy, and you know, and then I just thought about it more and more and more, and then pretty soon I declared it. I'm like, I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to walk back home to California.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I want to back up a little bit. What brought you to Bangkok in the first place?
Well, so is what brought me to Bangkok was, you know, 2016. You know, my band, I was in the height of my career. You know, my band Mother Crone up in Seattle was, God, man, we were touring. We're playing South by Southwest. We're playing like all these amazing shows. I had a brick and mortar drum school out there in Seattle. Had handful of teachers. You know, I was doing studio stuff. My career was just up and going, and I had a family and everything. And while I was out on tour, I unexpectedly got a divorce, and so that was in 2016, and so my life just completely changed, right? You know, you know, to spare the drama of it, it was pretty, you know, unexpected. It was kind of nasty, and so I flew home, and you know, it was like as soon as that happened, man, it was as if music, it was as if everything left me, right? You know, so you know, so I came home, and there's no family there, man. It was just an empty house.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, and I kind of had to like get my bearings. And so I told my band, luckily, man, this is the best thing ever. If you're in a band with your two best friends, there's nothing better in the entire world. You know, us working drummers, you know, we get in working relationships with people. But had that been a working band, it would have been, you know, it would have been even a bigger mess. But I was in this band with my two best friends. So I said, hey, man, I got to bow out. I don't know. I have to get, you know, I got to get my head on my shoulders.
Yeah,
so
I apologize to hear that. That's got to be a very soul sucking kind of experience.
Yeah, you know, especially when it's unexpected. You know,
yeah.
And so I came back. You know, the band, we were literally in the middle of our tour cycle, and so I needed to like not just like get out of town or whatever. I said, hey man, I need to go chill out where I don't know anybody. So I got a ticket to Thailand.
Wow.
I just went there. Yeah. I just went there, and I had some really, you know, I met some monks. You know, I just, you know, I went there, healed a little bit. I was only there for 3 months. My visa ran out. I came back, got a van, built out my van, was driving that around the U.S., and then I would go back to Thailand, and then I would come back, and you know, and pretty soon I had a little bit of money saved up, and I ran out of money, so my drums were in my van, and I would fly back here, and then I would be doing drum lessons all over the U.S. Out of my van, and then I started doing them online, right? You know, right there. So I'd be in like national parks. I remember being in the Grand Canyon doing a drum lesson right out. You know, I set up right outside my van, and I did a drum lesson to 5 or 6 people right there on my phone. I had perfect cell phone coverage, and then guess what? Wow. I was able to do that same thing in Thailand. So I started doing online drum lessons to people in the States and in Europe while I was in Thailand. So that was keeping me afloat while I was kind of getting my bearings.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the monk. Were you learning anything about monks while you were there, or were you kind of fascinated by that at all?
You know, so I grew up here, being here in Northern California. You know, where all the real hippies migrated to. I grew up with some really really hippie mom. My mom has been a master yogi since, but way before people even, before all the soccer moms even knew what yoga was, right?
Yeah.
And her brother started the very first transcendental meditation school in the U.S., right? So
Wow.
This goes like way back. Yeah. So, I've always kind of, that, grown up in that realm. And, the part of my story is what everybody is going to find out as part of this is, drumming. I've been drumming since I can remember. And so I've never lived life without band practice, without practicing my instrument, without drums being in my life. Like had never, what do you do? I used to trip out on regular normal people. I'm like, what do you do if you don't practice, if you don't have something to practice like an instrument? Well, literally, what do you do with your day?
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. And so I quit my band and I quit everything. And so I was like, I was really seriously thinking even before my walk or nothing, when I went to Thailand, I was thinking about, about just staying there and just being a monk, just, thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I had to contemplate. I was, full grown adult. I was already in my 40s, and I'm thinking like, man, I have this whole identity that is stripped away, and now what? Now what? Am I still a drummer? What am I? What? I've got no clue. So it was like, imagine dying, and then that the person who died stays dead, but then you come back and you're like a completely new person, right?
It's like shedding the skin at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't want to jump in front of you, but there's a lot of skepticism, in meditation, obviously, and these monks meditate their whole life just to achieve, I don't know the correct words for it. Were you ever a skeptic with it, or were you kind of a firm believer growing up with your mom with it right away?
Well, this is, what a great question. To me,
I know it's a little broad, but I've always wondered myself.
No. This is the thing. If you know what meditation is, okay. If you play drums, you meditate.
Yeah.
So of course, yeah. So anybody who this is a drumming podcast. Anybody who is listening to this, if you drumming is it's the meditation of all meditations, right?
Yeah. Well, I breathe completely different when I'm behind a drum set opposed to just talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the thing of it is is being able to take that same practice and that mindset outside of the drum set and apply it to life, make it intentional, I started playing drums because I dealt with Tourette and stuttering so bad. So being behind the drums really centered me. All right, still do. And so I would take that same center and apply that all throughout my life. Like when I was in school, if I was feeling ticky, right, because I would hit the bottom of my feet, growing up, and I had like all these weird freaking head ticks and all these words that I say, and oh man, it is a mess, right? But the meditation part of it really helped me be able to center.
Nice.
And still does, yeah.
So is this something you still practice, or when you were on your journey across America?
Yeah. So I write about this in my book. When I was walking, prior to that, so I talk about this part in my book where I'm like, I've shedded my identity, and when I was about to leave the Brooklyn Bridge, I was going through all of this doubt, and I'm thinking like, man, I felt like kind of an imposter because I was like, man, I'm not like this Instagram adventurer guy. I'm not. This dude, but it's making it out to look like that, and I'm like, oh man. I was like, God, I'm a drummer, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not a drummer anymore because I just quit everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is what I realized is that I'm one of the very few people that has walked all the way across America, 3,100 miles without a crew. I did it completely by myself, 52-pound pack, and is what I realized is that every skill that I acquired playing drums that has got me to be able to play drums as a pro for a living. Mm. Every skill that I learned to acquire that were the same skills that it took to be able to finish the walk. Meaning being in the moment. You know how like sometimes when you put the metronome on and it's at like 45 and you're doing something really hard, and you don't think about it's like your mind just we get in that magic place where you're like in the moment. You're listening to the click and you're thinking about the sticking, and you're not thinking about you balancing your checkbook or what's going to happen at work tomorrow and yada yada. You're completely in the moment, right?
Yeah. When
you're walking 10, 11, 12 hours a day and your feet feel like they got freaking like you're walking on glass, and your knees feel like there's lightning bolts in them, right? And you're chafed in places that you didn't know that you'd be chafed in, right? You tap in to that place, and that's where that meditation. And guess what? It was natural to go there. Mm-hmm. I didn't even have to think about it, and I started just being like, dude, this is just like playing drums.
Yeah. So I imagine you're on the Brooklyn Bridge day one. I imagine there's a lot of pent up anxiety, the realization is happening. Were you kind of just accepting at that point, or were you just excited at that point?
Both. Yeah. Both. Yeah. Talk about like a rookie, So January 1 of 2019, I gave up my New York City apartment, just boom. And I got rid of my drums. I had like the baddest snare drum in all of Seattle, dude, that was like a 1 of 1. Greg Keplinger made it.
Nice.
It was, it was one of his very first snare drums he ever made. It was just wicked, man. I got rid of it. I got rid of everything. And so I went out to Virginia and I started training. Right? And when I say training, I just, a buddy of mine lived out in the country, and I stayed at their house. I stayed in their basement, and I practiced walking every day, right? Because I hadn't walked 20 miles, dude. I was like, but I didn't use a backpack. So when I got to Brooklyn on April 22nd, right? So I practiced for like 4 months. When I got there to Brooklyn, my buddy brought the backpack to me. So I packed it up right then. So when I left, I was like, you talk about unprepared. I was like, oh my God. And it didn't even dawn on me to pack a tent. Mm-hmm. So the first night I made it as far as the edge of Jersey and slept in a park. Third night, we're out of New Jersey and getting into the Pennsylvania part, and then start getting freaking rained on, and I'm thinking like, whoa, man, maybe I should get a tent, So it was literally that. It was that bad. And if anybody is wondering why I went that way, I actually decided I was going to walk up to Niagara Falls first. Oh, wow. And then, so I went like 500 miles out of my way, 450 miles out of my way up to Niagara Falls. First.
You spoke about being unprepared. Were you making changes to your diet and your water intake before taking off?
Yeah. And meaning, I was shoving as many calories down my pie hole as I could.
Yeah.
Because a buddy of mine who he's big time. He's done the PCT 2 or 3 times, and he's done the other one a few times, and he was like, "Hey man, your body has to get you have to get used to having high calories." Mm-hmm. So yeah, before that, yes, I was just consuming everything. And you know what happened, man? This was a trip. I left that bridge 172 pounds, like shredded. Uh-huh. I got to the other bridge 199 pounds.
Wow, that's a big gain.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you were traveling, did you have like plans to cook as you went, or were you just kind of like eating at restaurants, or how was your plans for that?
Yeah, I had to carry my own food and my own water because eating at restaurants, will
bog you down a little bit there.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people, I'm not sure if they realize, if anybody's listening to this, how many times you've been across the United States. Most of the U.S. is completely desolate. Yeah, okay, yeah. Now especially like if you're like, oh, I'm just going to eat at a restaurant. That's fine when you got a car.
Yeah.
Think about this. Think about this statistic. A 25-minute drive at full speed in a car takes 9 to 10 hours to walk.
Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah. So if you come into town and they're like, oh yeah, there's a restaurant about 20 minutes down the road. That means I'm going to eat there tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing, so I had Jetboil with me, and then so I made sure that if I had to cook anything, I could either do it over a fire that I made, or I've got like a Jetboil, and then I bring my own coffee, and just I just had to freaking wing it.
Yeah, the reason why I bring that up is I can only imagine, when I eat something like McDonald's, it bogs me out. You know what I mean? So it'd be hard to slam a couple. I know you had a high calorie intake, but if you slam 3 double cheeseburgers, I imagine you're just going to be sweating that out for 6 hours walking in a straight line. It'd be rough.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't eat. I didn't grow. Luckily, I didn't grow up eating that kind of diet, anyways. So like, I don't really.
No, not you personally. I'm just saying the gist. If imagine trying to walk after eating like that.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. That's gnarly. It was gnarly. The thing is, I had like cans and cans and cans of like mustard sardines and shit. And by the time I got to Oklahoma, I was like, if I don't ever eat a fucking sardine or something like that ever again, man, that's cool. Because I would sweat like sardines and shit like that, man.
Yeah. That's because your body just outputting the whole time.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to jump on that subject, but so once you left New York, you were in New Jersey. Now, what time of the year did you leave again?
So I left April 22nd.
Okay, so about springtime.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's a lot colder. I mean, we're on the West Coast here, but now, did you feel like you were able to sleep in the cold like that in the outer? I mean, in the outsides? The elements,
sorry. The first part of it, man, was so easy and beautiful. Man, for me, it was a lot easier to sleep in the cold. When I got up north, like in the Pocono Mountains, I was when I got up there. I had it started getting really rainy and stuff, so like imagine walking like I'd be walking down these roads like 3 or 4 days, like by myself. And it just drenched, right? Like your feet are drenched. The bottom of my feet were cracked completely open, right? So every time I walked, yeah, man, it hurt. And the damn Pocono Mountains are just, they're all uphill, man. It seems like there was never a downhill. Yeah.
So and then, let me ask you a quick question. Did you map it out with the roads, or were you kind of just using basically a compass strategy and just going the right direction?
I mapped it out 2 days ahead of time, but before I went, and I used Google I used Google Maps, the walking directions.
Oh wow! No, I don't think many people use that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And so is what I had to do is, I can't walk. I could not walk most of the freeways. I only walked one freeway in the entire thing. That was when I was going through Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
I had to go on 80 because there's no other route. And that was a big debacle. I had to get it pre-approved and, call it like that. And, I had to call the troopers, and I almost freaking died in the desert. And bro, it was insane. But when I was up in the Pocono Mountains, that's the story that I wrote about and told it on a couple of podcasts about when I fell off a 40-foot cliff.
Oh, wow.
And I almost died, right? I was walking up this embankment, and I had to pee really bad. I stepped over the guardrail, and I started pissing, and the blacktop, the edge of the road, just broke. And so there I am, I got wiener in hand, and in mid pee, and I'm just freaking tumbling over, like that, dude. And I get to the bottom. My bag had come open, and everything was a strew everywhere. And I don't know how I didn't break anything, man. I was really sore about it. I was like, oh my God. So I got everything up, and I was like, all right, it could be a lot worse. And as soon as I said that, big old thunder and lightning, and it just started pouring rain.
It's like something out of a cartoon.
Yo, yeah. No, I got a bunch of these crazy stories. And so I started trying to scale back up to get back up to the top. And it was like a mudslide.
Oh, wow.
I finally got up to the top of the road. And then that night I had to sleep in the middle of the woods, and my tent had gotten ripped. So I slept in the middle of the woods in a tent full of water. Very sore.
How many days was this into your trip?
That was 2 weeks.
Oh wow, you're fresh. You're like right into it.
Yeah. That was 2 weeks into it, and I was like, okay, is this gonna be cool or not?
Yeah, well, I'm sure. So you had no injuries at the point. Was just kind of like a soreness you had to walk off the next couple of days, or did you kind of rest another day after that?
Yeah, no. There wasn't any resting for a while until I got up to Niagara Falls. I made it. And it was cool. The newspaper was there. It said, a drummer walking across America makes it to Niagara Falls. And so that was really cool.
Now, did I feel like it pushed you harder once you kind of had that kind of connection with people and being reported like that? Or do you think it brought more anxiety onto you at the same time?
No, great. That's such a great question, man, because yes, that I was feeling, oh man, like my I had a bunch of different emotions at that time, and when I got there, that was like leg one. When I got there, that's when it dawned on me. I was like, you know what? I think I could actually do this. And I felt so amped up, and I was doing, I tied it to the anti-bullying campaign, and so that was railing off, and so making it up there, walking, the first 500 miles, I said, dude, okay, I actually just put my sights on the next 500. I said, I'm just going to go next 500. And then after that, I'm just going to make it to Muncie, Indiana. And then after Indiana, so all in all, I went across 15 states.
Jesus. So once you left Niagara Falls, were you heading more into a rural territory? Were you still kind of following rural roads, or were you kind of still walking through the cities as you went?
Very rural, very, very rural. Yeah, very rural. I'd be walking, and lots of farm towns, and
not to interrupt you, but you mentioned that people have no idea how open America really is. I've traveled most states, but was it surreal to see a lot of like abandoned towns? Kind of like stuff that one industry moved in and moved out. Did you see quite a little bit of that on your trip?
Man, I saw that everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah, and this was literally like pre-COVID. I did this. I finished my walk, and then COVID happened. So it was like one thing that I noticed, man, was it was almost alarming how many abandoned towns were, especially in the middle of the U.S.
Yeah.
Southern Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, all of that, just town after town after town. They had liquor stores and Dollar Generals, and everything else was closed.
Oh, that's rough. How do you survive on the economy? Well, I mean, a lot of people still living off the system at that point, but yeah, there's no room for advancement or, like there's no ambition when you're stuck in a place like that.
Yeah, man, it's true. This was the thing. I noticed this. I noticed this disconnect that people had, where when I was walking across the U.S., like I said, it was pre-COVID, but it was still during a very politically charged time with Trump in office.
Yeah.
And so on the TV everywhere I went, it was division and everybody is, and everything was scary. But in real life, when I was walking, man, everywhere I went, dude, there was nothing but kindness. Whether I was around all Trump people, or when I was in like a more liberal part of town, and it did not matter. There was more people were kind and hospitable, and offered me money and food and everything. And so it really solidified to me that I remember when I was growing up, my grandpa used to say, most people are mostly good. He was like, wherever you go, people are the same, and most people are mostly good. And he told me that when I was really young. I've always remembered that my whole life, and it really panned out true.
Yeah,
but
I don't mean to jump in front of you again. Yeah, but, and I'm not trying to get into the subject, but the media could be a very dangerous thing, your perception. And I think a lot of it is what you put out in the universe is what you're going to get back. Not to sound cliche, but if you have the aura of being welcome, you're probably going to get 80% of that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it just like everyone looking at a screen and just adapting that consciousness, as a whole nation together.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I just it's really true. When we're being barked at, about how, because when I was leaving New York, I had people ask me, they're like, dude, bro, are you packing a gun? Like, oh my God, like, are you going to get, and I was thinking like, oh shit, what if I get mugged? What if I get picked up and stuff? No, I had, it was mostly really good. I mean, I was still careful. I wasn't naive. Yeah. I'm not saying that there aren't bad people, but but it wasn't as scary as what it seemed, and it made it more beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Now at this point, you're a couple of states deep. What were your like your showering tactics? Did you kind of just use gyms or hotels at that point to kind of keep yourself clean?
Shower? What's that?
Oh, so you just went for it.
yeah, man. I was like, if I came across a hotel, hell yeah, man, I would shower. I only had three changes of clothes with me. I had shorts, one pair of pants, and then like some warm stuff, and then like a hoodie and a t-shirt, and then.
Well, let me rephrase that question. When you're speaking as your skin was cracking, well, I mean, what was the best way for you to tend to yourself medical so you can keep going? Were you just kind of on top of that stuff as you went as well?
Not as much as I should have been. Like I said, I had never done anything like that, and I didn't. I was like, I just I had to deal with it like as I went. Mm-hmm. Is what I did was like when I, after a while, it dried up. I couldn't take too much time off. I made it to to the Sundial Bridge in 178 days. So that's 6 months.
What state was that again, just for everybody?
The Sundial Bridge is California.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We're going ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, in Redding. And so when I made it there, so that was 170. So I didn't really have a lot of time to, to take too many days off and whatnot. So when my feet were cracked, or I fall off a cliff, or whatever, I just had to get up and just keep on going. Mm-hmm. And then one thing I would do is I would throw my socks away, and if I saw Walmart, I would just buy a bunch of dry ones, mm-hmm. put those on, man, and they just felt like heaven. I was like, yes, right, yeah.
So another question I have is, as you're driving on the freeway, there's something called like the white line hypnosis, where you kind of just feel like you lost time because you're going on a straight line. And you mentioned meditation. Was there ever points where you just felt like you didn't realize you just walked 6 to 8 hours?
Daily, man. Yeah. And that was my whole vibe. That was my whole vibe, man. Since that probably kicked in right around week 2. It took me a couple of weeks to acclimate, and then man, after a while, I wasn't feeling. People were like, man, how did you walk with your feet? I would feel all the pain once I was done, when I was laying down, like in my sleeping bag at night or whatever. Then it was just excruciating. But when I was walking, it's kind of like when you're just, practicing really slow paradiddles, or, your 6-stroke roll or something like that. And you're just going over and over and over, and you just zone out.
Well, the reason why I bring it up is your good friend Justin Wren, which is a recurring guest on Joe Rogan. The reason why I bring that up, while you were in those trances, I don't know if you were so focused, but did you ever feel like your memory was getting better and you were kind of rewiring, your history and the current, and just kind of spacing things out?
Oh yeah, man. Yes, the walk, drumming helped me get really helped me with my stuttering. Obviously, I still battle it now. I'm still a stutterer, but not as much as I have been my whole life. And
so it's really not that bad at all.
Yeah, right on. Thanks. It's I have to really control it. It's every word that I say is it takes a lot of mental power. Yeah. And with my Tourette's and all that. When I was walking, my mom, she would call me on the phone to check on me, and she would talk, and she would just break out into tears. She's like, I've never heard you speak. Like I was speaking clearly, and it was so weird because how I said about how I had died and I was like this new person. Oh. The thing about in my walk was I would hear myself talk, and it was freaky, man, because I hadn't spoken in those clear, fluent sentences ever like that. And so it was almost like I was getting to reintroduce my this new person. So it was a trip, and I didn't have any tics at all. I wasn't hitting the bottom of my feet. It was almost like the Tourette's and the stuttering completely disappeared while I walked. And I think that it was just because of the CPU, the brain power that it took to do that every day.
Now, when you were walking, did you feel like a lot of old memories kind of just show up apparently? Because I know when you're like that, the brain kind of starts to kind of dig up old stuff. Did you experience any of that stuff as well?
Yeah, there was, I was.
Well, let me rephrase that. Did you feel like you were coming to peace with certain situations that were bothering you before you took off?
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's like, I was walking, like I said, out of grief from my divorce and everything. And it was really cool because when I was, the person that I had to talk to was myself, but it was almost like I was able to talk to myself being like a complete stranger, Yeah, so I spoke. I was able to speak with myself in more of a calm way that wasn't riddled with anxiety and angst, and being in like the same town, the same situation. I was on the move, and then I was talking, and it was, I don't know, it was the most spiritual thing I've ever been a part of in my life.
Wow, that's crazy. And
Yeah.
were you practicing on the way or giving lessons at that time?
So no, man. So check it out. I actually bring my practice pad and my sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I this practice pad that I had bring all over the world with me, and it was pretty special to me. Um, I wasn't given lessons. I had subbed them out. Some a former student of mine who became a really good teacher. He went to my teacher training program. I actually gave him all my students when I left. You know, yeah, shout out to Bill. What's up, buddy? Thank you so much. You know, and so I gave him all my students, and I just had my sticks and my practice pad. And then when I got to Indiana, I had walked this trail that was really cool. It's kind of like a bike trail or whatever, and it goes through almost the entire the entire state. And I came across this like little pizza restaurant. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't had pizza in so long.
Okay, so how many days were you into when you got to Indiana? About 3 weeks at this point?
Probably, yeah, about a month. Yeah.
Okay,
it took me about,
so you're at terms with the journey at this point. You feel a lot more comfortable and confident.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I just wanted I wanted to put a little time frame because we're still on the East Coast here with your story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so I got to that restaurant, and there was this autistic girl there. The owners of the restaurant, their daughter was this little autistic girl, and I told them that I played drums, and I've taught autistic kids, and I said, "Whoa, does she?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, she loves music." So I pulled out my sticks and my practice pad, and I started jamming with her. And she was like, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to be a drummer." And so I gave her. I said, "You know what? Here, you can have this." And that practice pad was the last thing that I had that was attached to my. I helped raise a stepson, and I hadn't seen him since the divorce. He was just gone, and so he had drawn on that pad, so it was very special to me. And so I was like, so when at that point when I handed her that, then and I walked out of there, it was almost like a complete shed. It was that was like one last thing that I was hanging on to that I had.
So that
from
was
prior
the token
to that.
it was pretty much your last token. That was pretty badass.
Yeah, and I gave it to her, and I took a video of her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a drummer." And her name was Eden, and she made up a band name and all that. And so I gave it to her.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Left, yeah.
So damn, that's actually really cool, man. That's that feels like that was kind of like your last turnkey kind of. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, yep, I'm in. Now what?
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're on a bike trail through Indiana. How long did you stay on course with that?
Yeah. So gosh, man, what is that thing called? It's called something green. Oh man. So I walked through. So I'll give you a little, timeline. So left the bridge, went up to Niagara Falls, scaled Lake Erie, came down through Erie, Pennsylvania, and then into Ohio. Once I got to Columbus, Ohio, I went straight west. I think that's that's Highway 50. There's an adjacent road that I was able to walk on, and that took me right into Indiana. And so the Cardinal Greenway, that's what it's called. This trail is called the Cardinal Greenway, and that goes all the way through Indiana. And I walked that for 2 weeks into Muncie, Indiana.
Oh wow!
And then from there, and then from Muncie, I had to go south because this big storm happened, and the Mississippi started flooding out. So I had to start going south, and that's when you've heard about the flood story. That's when I almost died in that. So
when you fell off the cliff.
No, when I was I had a really good friend in Muncie, Indiana, and I stayed like a day or two there and got rehydrated and everything, and then I left, and I walked for a couple of days, and I wound up in this town, and I was at this campsite, and they're like, "Hey man, there's going to be a really bad storm. The storm comes, lightning hits the tree that I was set right next to. The tree falls. I bail. My tent gets flooded out. Scared the living crap out of me. So I was like, man, I'm out of here. So I walked 22 miles southwest, and I came in to this other campground, and I told the lady, I said, hey, I want to buy a spot tonight. She said, okay, tent camping is down there by the river. And I was like, hey, there was just a big storm last night, and I'm freaked out to set up by the river because I don't want it to flood.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, I've been here for 40 years. The river is not going to flood. It's the Ohio River, and it's there's like a big ledge. So I was like, oh, that's all you had to say, right?
Yeah.
Well, that night, this storm of epic proportions came, dude, and I have this on video, and it was coming down, and all of a sudden the bridge, it breached the bridge, that snapped, and this big wall of water came, and it was snapping trees, took my freaking tent away, and I was getting swept away, and this guy in this truck came down and got me, and I jumped in the truck, and so half my gear got washed away.
Oh, yeah.
In the morning when I went down there, the picnic table was wrapped completely around the tree, about 15 foot high.
Oh wow, that's
yeah,
pretty intense. So at this point, were you sleeping when I hit you, or were you kind of just shocked?
Man, dude, check this out. So I was in my tent, and when all the rain was coming down, and I thought, I was like, man, there's shelter about 100 yards away from here. I should get under that shelter and make something out to eat because I'm starving.
Uh-huh.
So I got up and I got out of my tent, made something to eat, and about 3 minutes later, that wall of water hit my tent. Like I'd have been hosed, bro.
Oh yeah, that would have been. That probably would have ended your journey right there.
We would not be on the phone right now.
Well, I think it's wise, Jeremy, to say that we need to do a part 3. I think we're about an hour into this, and we barely kind of got halfway into it.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to leave everyone there, and I think we should turn around and do this, in about a couple months to get you on a part 3 here.
Yeah, brother, that would be awesome. Yeah, man, and then we could hear about the prison break story, and then we could hear about getting lost in a forest for 4 nights all by yourself.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface. I think we got a good establishment here, and yeah, I think this is going to get better and better as we go, and I want to hear the full story. I want season 2, man.
All right. Yeah, brother. Well, you're awesome, dude. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I want to touch base on what you're doing too. Please reach out to Jeremy if you're interested in taking lessons or learning his teacher program. Beach from the Core is the best place to find that, correct?
Yep. beachfromthecore.com and on Instagram.
All right. And yeah, I'll happily share the link for you. And Jeremy, yeah, dude, this is fun. I'm kind of looking forward to the next episode sooner than you think. And yeah, we'll talk soon, man.
You too, man.
All right.
Hey, you know what, dude? Thank you so much, man. It's been my pleasure, dude. Later.
All right, later.